He told me no. Sorry, bro.
Welcome back. Where are we back? Where are we? Where are we? Where are we?
We're in the same place, but I'd like to think with better lighting.
It looks great, man. I love the set. I love set.
Every day.
I love the set, and you're watching the WatchTower podcast. We are back in the TowerCast Network studio, talking cinema with my fellow pals. I got to introduce my fellow co-host, Mr. John Eric Astro.
Guys, I just witnessed one of the best films, one of the biggest snubs, I guess, from...
Oh, baby.
Man.
I'm with you. Mr. Michael Allo.
And I witnessed Castro watching the biggest snub.
And Eyewitness News.
Hold on, first, yeah.
And Mr. Austin Young. Make sure we're sounding and looking great over there.
Mr. I Love Lamp himself. Say hi.
I love lamp.
Yes, you do.
What does that
And
mean?
let's
What is the lamp?
not
A lamp?
forget to introduce.
Hold on. What's
the
a
host
lamp?
with the
Is it like a
most
puma?
Packing where he be smacking
How
Carlos
fancy.
Del Toro.
Is it like a puma?
Your humble host for this cinematic podcast as we dive deep into, as Mr. John Eric Astro put it, something we all agree on. One of the biggest Oscar snubs, definitely of this year. Of all time, we'll see.
What's a snub?
What's a snub? A snub, you're right. Good question. A snub is when the Academy of Motion Pictures nominates a certain set of films and a film that you think merits an Academy Award. By the way, it got nominated for 3 Academy Awards.
Say which one.
Best Costume Design, Best Production Design, and Best Original Score. All very well deserved. But it didn't get the major awards, which I shouldn't say major. It didn't get the
I guess the prime time.
the kind of prime
the big
time.
one that everybody waits for, like the best actor,
Best Picture, Best Directing,
director.
Best Cinematography, nothing. It obtained absolutely none of these nominations other than those 3.
Writing. Yeah.
Writing, very right. Original
And which ones do
screenplay.
you guys think that, honestly, they should have deserved? It should have.
Oh,
Directing a picture.
Nah, don't say that. Oh,
oh,
really?
all of them. With the exception of like effects, and even then, maybe there was some CGI.
So how would it get nominated for animated feature?
All of them,
No,
Austin.
no.
I need
He
I
knows
need
what I
it
mean.
to be all of them. I genuinely think it deserves best original screenplay,
Absolutely.
best directing, best cinematography. By the way, when I say I don't think it deserves to win all of them. I think it
Just get
deserves to get at least a nomination. Best acting, best supporting acting. The supporting cast in this film was phenomenal.
All-star cast.
Brad Pitt deserved a best acting nod for this. So did Diego, and this was his first big American picture.
Maggie Robbins?
Margot Robbie.
Maggie Robbins.
Yeah.
Maggie
See,
Robbins
they
was
keep-
great.
They
I
keep
love-
voting in Margot Robbie, and then that's why Margot is not
As I was
getting any
saying, I
love.
was like, damn, I forgot her name.
Margot's
Did
phenomenal.
your
I
brain
just-
switch
her best
to
role.
Australian, and you were like, then Margot.
Yeah, down under.
There's really something special about Margot in that
About these
movie.
kangaroos.
You know what? It deserved an editing nod too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Oh.
thought at the very least it was going to get an editing nod and the cinematography nod.
Absolutely.
We are talking about 2022. One of my favorite directors of all time. One of my heroes since the late 2010s. I'm sorry, mid 2010s. Damien Chazelle's Babylon.
Yeah.
We're talking about Babylon today. Yeah, play the score in post, Austin. No. By the way, very well deserved. And Justin Hurwitz won Best Original Score at the Golden Globes. I mean, he might be on his
Does
way to
anybody even watch the Globes anymore?
over the
Well,
Oscars right now. Maybe,
If
man.
they do,
I mean-
they're not watching our podcast. No, I'm kidding. No.
No, but we're talking about Babylon. This is something that I really was anticipating this film since I knew. And by the way, when they released the information of this film, what was Damien Chazelle's next film? The plot line or the summary that they started giving was the synopsis that they were throwing around online was a film starring Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie about the transition from silent pictures into talkies.
Mm-hmm.
So to someone like me is like gold, man. It's candy to be hearing something like this. Chazelle, who loves and reveres cinema so much more than a lot of directors nowadays, man, in this era, to go back and say, I'm going to make a picture about the transition of silent pictures. By the way, not that it hasn't been done. Singing in the Rain was a huge inspiration for this film, as we discussed. The Artist, who, I know we want to cover on this podcast also eventually. So, a very big domino effect. The Artist, I think, takes a lot from Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain obviously inspired this one directly in a lot of ways. So There's a lot to unpack about this film. A lot to unpack. I thought this was a perfect pick. And we were going to go with something totally different, by the way, before we decided to land on this one. But I think it's a perfect pick because it didn't get Oscar love. We're going to start talking about the Oscars. There's a lot of films that got snubbed, I think.
The Whale.
The Whale got love.
The Whale
It got love, but
got
it didn't.
It should
Best
have
acting
been
love.
nominated.
It didn't get Best Picture? No. Oh, you're right. It
I
didn't get Best
also
Picture.
don't think it got
I think there was too much pizza.
Did it get Best Adapted?
I mean, this one had elephant shit, man, so maybe that's
I
why I
don't know if it
didn't.
got Best Adapted either. The Whale.
Oh,
That's
you're
a
right.
different
It probably
film for
didn't.
another
But it
time.
got the best actor, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's gonna win.
I agree. And it got Best Supporting. It got Best Supporting, I think, for
Yeah.
I
The
forget her
friend.
name, but she's terrific.
Yeah.
But right now it looks like the supporting is going to go to. I wish I could remember his name.
No, for actresses, we're talking about actors.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Best Supporting for Actor.
Best supporting actor. The guy from Everything Everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
he's
yes.
campaigning
Kane
hard,
Lee
man.
Kwan.
Yeah.
Even his speech, yeah.
He's campaigning hard, man. He deserves it. He's terrific
Yeah.
in that picture too.
His
But,
story is beautiful, dude.
As
We're
far
gonna
as-
get into all of this
Yeah.
at the Best
Yeah.
Pictured episode. Right now, we're talking
Definitely.
about Babylon, and by the way, we walked out. This is my third time screening it. We screened it right now here at the Tower office, and Mr. Castro's first time watching it, and Delau and Austin second
amazed.
time, and
Second time.
wow, there's so much to unpack, man. There's
Yeah.
so much to unpack. So ratings,
Can I start?
absolutely.
So, no.
So I'm glad that I got to start because I think that my opinion is the most important at the table.
It actually is.
Absolutely.
So Castro should go first, right?
Yeah, let's throw the actor.
This is very much an actor film, by the way.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. You
In,
know
in
what?
a lot of sense of the word.
I've never
Oh,
seen a
man.
film with so much chaos, so much coordinated chaos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
From the
coordinated
start
chaos.
to the end.
Yeah,
Right.
that's Chazelle. That's all. What?
No, that's Chazelle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
That is?
That's
Well, I mean,
Bro,
look, he
because
has an
I've really
interesting
seen a
filmography.
couple-
He has
uh-huh.
an interesting filmography. I mean, he started with a film called Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, which was this indie 16mm film that he shot in college about a trumpeter.
Okay.
It's terrific little picture, man. I screened it over the pandemic. Austin got me a legal copy.
I'm cutting that out.
I said legal, and you can't find this film anywhere. I just want to clarify that you really can't. It's on DVD on eBay.
And you're
for
talking about the first one?
$200 if somebody wants to buy it for me. It's called Guy and Madeline on the Park Bench, and it's a musical by all intents and purposes. And then he jumps into Whiplash. This is chronologically how they were released.
yeah,
He
that's-
wrote Babylon before he even wrote Whiplash or La La Land. It's crazy. Well, I'll explain that later, but he did Whiplash. Honest, you got a ton of Oscar love and critics, and there's a terrific picture. And then he did La La Land right after that.
Okay, nah. it's-
His kind of intermediate film, which a lot of people didn't love. I appreciated it for what it is. I don't think that should have been his next move, but it was First Man with Ryan Gosling.
Why are you hating on that one? That was a good picture.
It was a good picture. It was a good picture because he's a
Not
good
his
director,
best.
Well, you're
but
a,
not his best.
I think if I were to rank Chazelle films, it's
Are
probably
you
at the
a
bottom
moon-
for me.
a moon landing denier. Or what's going on?
I'm a flat earther, bro. I just got Kyrie on my team. You think I'm not gonna go? No, but I agree with Austin. In the list of Chazelle's filmography, it's at the
That's
bottom
true.
for me.
No, yeah.
The reason I was kind of mentioning him being like able to control so much chaos is you look at the scale of like La La Land and having these organized groups being able to create a whole emotion with
Musicals are chaos. They're
Yeah,
organized
Well,
chaos.
La La Land was more of a musical. No, this one was
Absolutely.
more
no,
of.
but I mean there's a rhythm to the chaos
Yeah.
and we can talk about that right now
Musicals.
in a bit, but there's a rhythm to the chaos. There's a rhythm to all the motions.
Interesting. I want to hear about that. 'cause-
And so yeah, I feel like Chazelle's shown me, I think time and time again, that he really knows how to control large groups and he knows how to create an ensemble feeling. when
yeah,
you're
exactly.
watching it.
Especially with this one for sure.
Yeah. But-
Man, just
Back to your rating. Back to
So I got 2 ratings
well, mix them
for a musical or for just a movie.
for a what?
For no, it's not even a
Really?
musical.
It's not a musical.
It's not a musical.
It's I was thinking of Singing in the Rain.
into a genre. Picture?
So
No,
It's
yeah,
because we all have Singing in the Rain fresh in our minds.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I very humbly asked the guys
It's more of
to
a drama
screen
comedy. That's true.
Singing in the Rain before screening this picture, and
Which you can do too.
And I'm glad you did.
yeah, I mean, I really highly recommend if you're gonna watch this film. If you haven't seen Singing in the Rain, screen it. It'll do you a huge favor in terms of just connecting the dots.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good
good morning. Let's start dancing.
No, but for a film, for sure, I thought I was gonna come in and not gonna like it for some reason. I thought it was gonna be a musical for some reason.
Okay. Do you think was that in the marketing, Cus? I think the marketing in this picture was bad.
Yeah, I think in the trailer I
think
saw
it has
so
a
much
purpose.
dancing.
I think it has a purpose. I think they did it to get people in the seats. But the trailers and the posters and everything, though great, are not what the film is.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
You know, is that what turned it off
I
for
think
you?
that's what it was.
Like,
I was expecting something else, but
Okay.
either way, I was mind blown. I loved it. I'll give it a 9.6
Wow,
Pretty good.
that's high.
because it resonates with actors. I mean,
Oh,
come
absolutely.
on, there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many scenes where oh man,
Brad's character and Margot's
All of
characters
Brad Pitt's monologues are just great when it comes to
are
like
heavy, man,
being
heavy.
remembered.
Gene Smart, man, who plays Larissa Saint John. I think it's Saint John. Her last name Saint John.
Intern.
I don't know if it's Larissa, but it's Saint John. Her character, man, Gene Smart. If you know Gene Smart, I mean, she's kind of she has a good reputation as an actress, but she's kind of highbrow, really professional actress, and she signed on to this, and she thought this film's gonna get an X rating. But you know what?
Shoot.
But the cast is great. I'll do it for that reason. And I thought her performance was phenomenal, man. Her performance, her monologue with Brad. Oh my gosh, man! Gene
Punches
Smart.
so
Just,
hard.
if somebody should have been nominated for Best Supporting in this film, it should have been her.
But besides the performances, I also love like the history of it.
Oh.
I just the ending just
Yeah.
brought it all back together. Like, oh my god, this is you wanted to be part of something bigger,
Right.
and then it just shows you like this. So I think that's what I love.
I
about
love
it,
that
the
you said
history
that
and the realness of
because
it.
the history. This is though it's based in true, accurate history. Most of the characters are made up or fictional.
No, for
most
sure,
of the characters
for
are
sure.
fictional, but they're based on somebody genuinely.
And
And
I love
I'll give
that.
you the names and right now, but what I appreciate about that too is that I'll talk about this with my rating. Hello, 9.6.
9.6, strong.
Yeah, no, I feel like this one hit a lot of markers, and I feel like it still holds up the second time around seeing it. And again, the reason we're calling it a snub and we're saying that it deserves so much more love is because we saw so much merit in the directing, in the acting,
Yeah.
the cinematography, everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's earned a place at like a 9 point. I'll give it a 9.5.
9.5.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think it's really earned its place. I think it's crazy for the scale and how much it was able to do in 3 hours that didn't feel like 3 hours. It flies.
Yeah.
It's really impressive, and there's a lot to dive into.
3 hours and 8 minutes is the running time of this picture, by the way. And
What do you think
You're
was
right.
the strongest? The strongest.
The strongest?
the lighting, the
No,
choreography of the whole chaos.
The choreography is one, but I think
Sure.
the actors.
Mandy
really,
Moore, by the way.
The actors,
brought it.
right?
Yeah, no, the actors really brought this to life, and I mean, you saw everybody at a top and their lowest point, and you saw an insane amount of range coming from each one of them.
and not just the main actors.
Yeah.
Like even the lady.
Support
that was-
everybody, you would see so much range coming from them, and I mean, it's like I can imagine anybody who got a role in this movie would have been like, this is like the role of a lifetime, you know, just because of how
Yeah.
much there is to
Yeah.
do, how much there is to show. I mean,
and then you even get somebody like Tobey Maguire playing
My-
probably the best
Oh,
part he's
yeah.
played in.
What was
15
up with
years.
that scene?
We'll get there. We'll get
I
there.
know.
We'll get there.
but
We'll
yeah,
get
no,
there.
I think acting was
Acting was
a
am-
huge one. We can talk about cinematography and a lot of the little homages that it kind of played into. But yeah, no.
Linus Sandgren, by the way, who's Chazelle's go-to guy since La La Land. I
Oh,
mean,
amazing,
phenomenal.
nice.
amazing.
9.5.
Awesome.
1.5.
Austin, man, this is your second time?
Second time.
Second screening, and the first time we saw it in cinemas. So
So we saw it the second time at the Tower Cinema.
you're right. Good point. You got me a beat. You got me.
Yeah.
Touche.
Cinema.
The third time will be at the De La Torre Cinema.
The screen keeps getting screened.
I think his screen's bigger than what we have here, actually.
It is.
It is?
It's a 130, and this one's a 120. I
No,
think.
people can't see because of the cameras, but there's this huge mega. Anyway,
Rating.
No, the megaphone's over there.
Oh.
Mega party.
Oh, wow, he's thinking.
He's
about
thinking about it.
I want to give it a high rating, but I don't want to give it a 10.
it.
Okay.
I don't think it deserves a 10.
It doesn't.
What was it missing then? I almost gave it a 10.
that's
but
the question with every
There's
single
stuff that
film.
are missing, but
I'll be fair. I know what it is, but go on.
But I want to kind of like.
I'd give it a 9.1.
9.1.
Wow.
What was the strongest thing that you had? That you think it had going for it?
There's a lot to it, man.
You love the
The
lot.
direction, the acting, the editing, cinematography, everything. It has its moments where it needs to be serious. It has its moments where it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like we joke about the camera part the most. But there's just certain Who the fuck sneezed? But there's parts of it that just it needs work. I feel like I think we discussed it. It's like a 5-act film.
Yeah.
I think 30 minutes can be taken off the top.
Really?
Ooh, I can agree with them.
Oh man.
No. But hear me out. The flow is great. It does not feel like a 3-hour film. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
The second time still doesn't feel it.
I
But
think taking
still
out
think
30 minutes is taking
maybe
out.
that's a bit of a stretch, but I think
Some.
there's some that can be trimmed.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
And that's probably my biggest thing with it.
Fair on the editing front. So 9 point what?
9.1.
9.1.
0.1.
Actually, let's make it a 9.3 just for that final sequence.
Right?
I wanted to make it a 9.3, but there's something about it that I give it a little bit.
That final sequence was...
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Jurassic Park, and I was like...
Yeah. Oh, by the way, there's a very... I think I pointed this out the first time I saw it, or the first time I saw it with you guys, that there's something in the middle there that really caught my attention, especially this time around.
Oh, I love these. What?
In the middle of the sequence, in the middle of that sequence, the final sequence, spoilers.
Yeah.
Man, there's a card, and I don't know what film it belongs to, that says fin de cinema, end of cinema.
Yeah.
And then the minute after that, we get into CG pictures.
Oh,
I think that's very telling.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, that whole like the theme where it's just kind of like
We
it's
go
supposed
from
to be
that
the
title card
end.
to
and
like
then-
a couple of badly rendered 3D films, and then
There
like
you go.
Tron, and then Jurassic Park, and
Exactly.
then Terminator.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that these films are bad, but that's got to be something to explore. That title card alone is something to explore. I think.
especially the explosion of everything afterwards, and to show Avatar, which I think is on top still.
It just
Or
got
it was.
dethroned. It just got dethroned, but it just surpassed third all time.
With Fumu.
Megan, I think dethroned it. Believe it or not. A box office. It's been there for fucking 2 months, guys. It's gonna get dethroned at some point. No, but I mean, it
But
got
all
dethroned.
time, I think both Avatars in the top 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Doesn't
think.
Cameron have all top
Yeah,
3?
Titanic.
Yeah, Titanic. It just surpassed Titanic.
Yeah, I read that.
It just surpassed Titanic.
So all time, Cameron has a top 3.
Mhm.
I think he.
That's why I thought it was hilarious. I was mentioning to Eric. Eric loves Cameron just for like a bunch of shit, right? Terminator and stuff. But I was telling him, I think it's hilarious that Avatar just passed Titanic for box office, and Titanic's going to be re-released for Valentine's Day in 3D, and that's going to go up again.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to be competing with himself, which is great. Yeah, I think it's going to be out for like a week on Valentine's Day just to re-release it in 3D. That's
And
what
in
Cameron
3D.
owns.
That's weird.
It's Cameron. It's Cameron's
And
the
he believes in.
But to be
champion of
honest,
3D.
do you guys buy DVDs or into 3D?
I do, but you know what? I
DVDs?
Or do you see movies in 3D?
yeah, absolutely. When I
I see
can,
life in 3D, man.
the
Like-
film.
What was the last film you saw in 3D?
Oh,
Avatar.
this
Avatar.
Avatar.
Oh, the new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you need to see it in 3D.
I haven't seen it.
It's,
I haven't
it's
seen it.
terrific.
Oh,
Really?
But I thought you guys only saw it in the cinema.
We saw it 240.
Liars.
No, we saw it on 240 and Screen X.
Yeah, no.
That was still phenomenal.
Yeah, but you gotta watch 3D.
No, but
You're right.
okay, fine. It was the first Avatar anyway.
What
But
did I
that's
just-
because we went to the re-release back in like September.
Oh, that's right. We saw that in 3D.
Getting-
The first Avatar. You're right.
Off
Recently.
topic.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna mention to that is that whole ending sequence.
Bumped
It's
it up for
funny
you.
that they show Avatar because for the long period of time where people thought like, oh no, CG is terrible. CG is not making cinema better. It's just a bunch of cheap
But
tricks.
I remember those times.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
for Avatar, something like that to come out where, I mean, you could see that this guy invested into it as an art form
Mhm,
and, like,
mhm.
really perfected the craft of, like,
I mean, legitimately
IMAX
dedicated
3D.
his whole film directing career
Yeah.
to it. He hasn't worked on a single other picture other than Alita as a producer in 10 years, in over a decade. He's been doing nothing but Avatar films. And because he believes in the art form, and because he believes in how it can push cinema forward, and he believes in the story. This is a film he wrote in the 90s, man. He's been wanting to make this film for 30 years. And he finally did. My point is that Cameron decided he's not the youngest guy in the crowd anymore, man. He's decided, I'm going to dedicate my life to this. Like, dedicate my life to deep diving in the ocean and making Avatar films. And that's it for a while.
That's beautiful,
Yeah.
dude.
But
Once
it's
you
crazy
find it,
because
yeah.
it's one of the top grossing films of all time. And I remember when it came out, it ended up breaking all these different records.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it did that when everybody thought it was going to fail.
Yeah.
And that parallel to like this film where at first talking pictures is a fad, and even Singing in the Rain we see that too. And in a lot of films, when it first came out, this concept, this idea, the whole idea was that it's a novelty.
Yeah.
Like even Brad Pitt, do people really want talking in their pictures? Like they just didn't connect the two.
And by the way, just in connections with that, Babylon was released the same weekend as Avatar. So it bombed.
Yeah.
So it bombed, and the budget was the biggest budget Chazelle has ever had. 78 mil. I appreciated how you 3.6.
But compare that to the other.
But by the way, it did well in Europe.
It made more worldwide than it made in the States.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I mean to say by that too is, it's very telling of our time. And I love how Chazelle approaches Chazelle. Usually directors are very afraid of like, this is my 78 mil, we're not going to break even, or we're not going to make profit. Worried about their career. Chazelle was like, I was hoping this film would spark mixed reviews. I was hoping it would spark conversation about what you think and what you don't think about this. And naturally in the box office, he's like, well, that's just what's going to happen with a film like this. I was prepared and I'm not worried.
That's awesome, but dang.
That's ballsy. It's ballsy, and it's very telling of like him just dedicating himself to his stories and his picture. And at who cares at the studio's cost right at this point. But
so for the sake of breaking things up
Yeah.
and moving on to the next section.
Yeah.
Rating. I know.
I'm gonna start.
No, I love it. But I love it though.
Just like the what?
Just like the first
32 minutes into.
32 minutes into the episode. We'll get it.
Wow.
I love it, dude. I love it.
Title card.
Fair.
I love it.
I'm gonna start at 9.
Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna start at 9. I'm gonna start at 9, and the reason being because
What?
Here.
yeah, right at 9. By the way, all of our ratings
You
are above
chose
9.
this.
I think this is the first time this happens.
No, we've had a couple.
We've had a couple 10s, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, rock and roll, of course.
That one's going down
Thanks
by
for listening to the WatchTower podcast.
We're starting at 9 because I've been consuming a lot of cinema lately and stuff that
Don't give me that.
the deserves 10s and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's hard to put up there.
I'm gonna start at 9. I have my issues with it. I have this. The only, but honestly, to be honest with you, I'm not.
I don't know, maybe because I just saw it. It's my first time.
Yeah. No, I've digested this film a little, after 3 times and then talking about it left and right, trying to preach the gospel that is Babylon. Just people are not watching it. Watch it. It's out on digital. Go screen it.
56 and Rotten Tomatoes. That's.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm glad you said that.
I never look at reviews, but I had to see why.
Let's jump into that a little bit because we had a meeting earlier today with I won't say their names, but with 2 or 3 people. 3 people. Let's say 3 people. 3 people.
Let's say 4.
Yeah, let's say 4.
Yeah, let's confuse people.
I said we, right? We had a meeting with 3 people.
With 5 people then.
Right.
6 people?
No, because we didn't meet with 5 people. We had a meeting with 3 people whose thoughts on cinema I hold to very high regard, and I think Austin could agree as well. And one of the individuals, out of his own kind of he was like, man, you guys see Babylon? Such a great film, man. They kind of just raved about it and we're geeking out about it.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 who, again, I hold very high regard in cinema, they were both like, I haven't seen it yet. But they understood what it was trying to approach. And they were like, oh, I mean, the reason I bring this up is because they made a comment. Both of them kind of made a comment about a couple things. One of them was like, I was like, yeah, man, I got snubbed. One of them was like, he's older. He knows cinema very well. He's been through the changes of cinema for a long time. And he says, who cares? The Oscars, I stopped watching like 20 years ago, man, because that's when it mattered.
I do.
And it's very interesting to think about. I mean, we've been seeing that decline for a couple years now, at least us, for probably since 2017. Yeah. So I think the Oscars had its lowest ratings in terms of people tuning in last year in like 20 years.
I gotta ask. I'm not. When was keep my wife's name?
Last year.
That's probably.
Yeah. You want to know why they dropped the ratings? Because they put awards during the commercials.
That's a good point. That's a big thing that people hate right now.
Yeah.
But anyways, this individual said that. The other individual was like, dude, I mean, even people who are critique. Somebody had pointed it out to me. Like, I think he had pointed it out to me that like Rotten Tomatoes, man, is like one of the dumbest things right now in existence. And then when he mentioned that to me, I was like, I started thinking about it because I was the same way. I need to start like, what's up with Rotten Tomatoes, right? Because I would go and Google and what's the rating and this and that, right? And then there was this recent thing, laugh at me all you want, where they honored Paul Schrader at a university. Scorsese made a tribute video for him, like, hey man, thank you, love that they're honoring you. And then he mentioned something about Rotten Tomatoes. He's like, I hate Rotten Tomatoes. I hate how people are just, that's their go-to system to pay attention to. Critics used to matter, man.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert used to matter.
What I'm saying. Okay,
I mean, Gene Siskel used to matter. Like,
don't you think that's just like a little evolution? Or
no, I think from
Ebert, thumbs up, thumbs down.
No, because it's the same thing as social media to a certain degree, man. It's bullies.
No,
online.
I'm with you, but I'm just saying, like, what are we supposed to go about? Like,
you're all yourself.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm just saying, like,
you know why critics mattered before? Because people had to genuinely make an effort to find out any type of information on a film that's about to come out. This critic is going to say, hey, you should go see this movie or you shouldn't, right? This was before you could Google something. This was before you could Google a runtime or what theater closest to you is screening the film or how much a theater ticket costs or whatever. This was making it worth your while, right? Or not. Or if a film sucked, I'm not going to waste my time and effort to go and check this film out. Now it's, let me put it to you this way.
I'm 50-50 on it.
I just saw Megan last night. That's fine. I hated it a lot less than I thought I was going to hate it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm not about that film.
Do you see it?
No, but I'm just...
Well, okay. That's where I was. Watch it.
It's like actually... with the boy, that scary movie with the boy.
No. I agree. Watch it. Because I was like, oh, okay. That's interesting.
Be honest, did you pick it or did the wife pick it?
My sister-in-law picked it. She wanted to see it. I was like, well, come to the house, watch it. So... the reason I bring Megan up is because Megan, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, I think it got something like 84% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
Okay, now.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Is people are paying attention to, well, I'm not going to watch Babylon. I got a 56.
Yeah.
When it's a much better picture than Megan.
I'm with you.
So, I mean, it's just what tastes are right now. Film critics that are alive and well now are 30, dude, 40. You know what I mean? They're
Okay, do you see Ebert's reviews?
Ebert's dead.
I mean, the other one. I bet.
Which one?
Didn't they change up to like somebody else, like two other guys?
I mean, maybe like his website. You mean?
Or the ones that like the new reviews.
Yes, but I don't pay. After he died, I stopped paying attention. Yeah. To be honest with you,
because I know that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't go on the rating of like how good it was, but how much people agree on like the rating.
Oh, that's a good point.
And that's something really that I've heard. That's why they say, if you trust in Rotten Tomatoes, you're not trusting. Oh, it was 76% good. No, it's that 76% of people all agreed that it could have been like a 3-star rating or like a 4-star rating.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. And that ends up...
Another thing too is like, don't get me wrong, you do have to be somebody of kind of high regard or high merit to be a critic on the site.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
that's why they have a fan rating and a critic rating, right? Now, or audience score and a critic rating, or critic score. But I still think it's so jumbled up in messiness, man, where before it was just a critic's going to write, just like St. John in the film, is going to analyze the film, sit and see what it took to make this film and why it matters and why the film matters as a film alone, standalone film, and then write a review on it and write her own take on it. And that's it. Somebody like Roger Ebert, by the way, when he was reviewing the Chicago Sun-Times, he was writing to give his opinion on a film, and he was pretty, like, subjective about it.
Okay, I was going to say it.
Objective? Subjective.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to... Well, what did he do?
He was trying to remain, not neutral, but he was just giving his opinion and letting you decide whatever you wanted to decide on it.
Yeah, so he was trying to, I guess, remain
objective.
Yeah.
Unbiased.
Objective is, like, factual. Subjective is opinionated.
Right. Subjective in his, you're right, in his kind of regard. But when he was doing the show with Gene Siskel, the 2 Thumbs Up show, he went off, man. Like, he didn't care. It sucked, man, or whatever. Like, he gave his opinion in that regard. So the reason I respect that is because he could legitimately pull back and say, listen, this is what I think about the film. I'm gonna give my opinion and not try to sway you either way.
Okay.
And I think the internet right now is full of, no, you have to believe what I'm telling you. Like, I'm going to sway your ass.
You're very
right. And towards the wrong opinions too, man. I mean, I'm pretty glad that this film, quote unquote, got mixed reviews too.
Yeah.
The critics' reviews are all great.
They are.
Yeah. Which is funky, but I think a film like this is going to age well, and I think that when you compare it to kind of its inspirations, something like I very much, one of the first things I talked about when I talked about this film to people was like, I can't believe that Damien Chazelle made a Fellini film in the 21st century.
Nice.
Because when you watch Variety Lights or Fellini Satyricon or 8.5, my gosh, man, Fellini did something really special, something that you really have to sink your teeth into and analyze. And at first you're like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get thrown in the world. And by the way, Chazelle is very much known for, I'm going to throw you in my world. And I'm going to throw you head on. When he did that with La La Land, he's like, I'm going to open it with a big musical number so people in the first 10 minutes understand that you're watching a full-blown musical.
And I mean,
You know.
there's shots at the beginning, kind of when they're doing that whole big scene with the big battle and everything like that. And then after they say cut, then they cut to a bunch of clips of the reel stopping and
Right.
and you know, it going
Process.
and showing that kind of movement
Yeah.
of celluloid being the start and the stop of whatever's captured
Right.
there. And this whole film deals with the perpetuity of these characters with that celluloid.
Yeah, it's so important.
A lot of those clips were very reminiscent of a movie that's on the Sight and Sound poll, and I don't know if you guys remember, but it's called Man with a Movie Camera. It's a Russian film,
Absolutely.
Extremely experimental in its execution, but a lot of it kind of, a lot of the inspiration is this idea that film is what creates life, and when film stops, then life stops.
Right.
And that's kind of what I saw he did with this. And
They
really
they
executed
glorified
it.
this era. This era was very interesting because it was 1920s. It was pre the Jazz Senior, so we're talking about silent pictures. It was pre the Hays Code, which I do want to talk about because
Yeah.
the Hays Code, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, who are kind of cinema scholars and stuff, revolutionized cinema for the worst. It changed what cinema could be. It limited what cinema could be. It limited what TV could be. The Hays Code, let me kind of just throw that out there. The Hays Code was named after Will H. Hays, who was this kind of left... he was a conservative who had a very Catholic background who, like, decided, why aren't we rating films? And if we're not rating films, why don't we limit what can be shown on the screen? I mean, it's kind of the same principle, right?
Yeah.
Let's limit what can be shown on the screen. But what's more is we have actors and directors and creative personnel. We have them signed to contracts in the studio. Let's limit what they also do in life. Let's
Okay.
limit their drug intake. Let's limit what pictures they take and don't take. Who sneezed? Let's limit their lifestyles. And legitimately, we talk a lot about a film, the Coen Brothers film, Hell Caesar,
Yeah.
which was the same principle. The lead, Josh Brolin, was a guy hired by the studio to go control out of control fucking actors and directors, right? So it's the same principle. This was what the Hays Code did. It didn't just limit what goes on the screen. It limits what happens behind the camera. So
Okay.
It was the age of morality for cinema.
it was the age of American principles of their perverts in private and Protestants in public and perverts in private, right? They're Puritans. I'm sorry, Puritans in public, perverts in private. It's that. It's people who are church-going Americans who think this isn't what we should be watching on the screen. So what Chazelle wanted to do with this picture was, this shit existed, man. Greta Garbo and Marilyn Monroe and Humphrey Bogart and the people that came before them. Charlie Chaplin has a fucking crazy... Charlie Chaplin married his fucking cousin, man. And like...
He had to leave because he also married
he
a
got
underage.
exiled from the
Yeah.
country. Well, mostly because of being a communist. But I mean, again, this everybody paints the early 20s. Everybody paints just that era as this high class, high morale era, and it wasn't. And Chazelle, I mean, this is well documented. This is well documented in various books of like the 20s were fucking nuts, man, like nuts. The 30s were nuts, and people think, oh, it was this high. It was before, quote, I'm going to be facetious, but it was before there was color in the world because everything was black and white. because that's how we see whatever was shot in that era, right? But it was nothing like that, man. Back in the day, opioid epidemics and cocaine being brought into the States, and I mean, dude, it was insane. And Chazelle was like, well, let's steer into the skid. If we're gonna fucking present this how it was, and he exaggerated some points to prove a point, right? Like
the drug room.
Like the drug room, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that one. Yeah,
but it was just to kind of point out, like, I think most people who don't care or don't watch enough of this stuff will sit and be like, they didn't have cocaine back then. They didn't have these high amounts of this or that or third. People weren't doing pills, or where they were fucking, dude. Judy Garland, Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland, her life was ruined, man. Fucking ruined at 14 because they were giving her sleeping pills, diet pills, smoking cigarettes,
so they wouldn't eat.
And coffee. Her diet consisted of cigarettes and coffee every day. On the Wizard of Oz, on the shoot of the Wizard of Oz. I mean, life was crazy back then, and the entertainment industry was not fucking pure. So very reminiscent of today's day and age too. So this was what Chazelle was trying to present.
Back then, how many studios were there?
In the 20s, or
20s.
I mean, we're talking about some of the 5 majors, not everybody, but we had RKO Pictures, which eventually was bought by Howard Hughes. Paramount, actually, it kind of merged with Paramount, Warner Brothers, MGM, and Disney.
And the one that they were trying to portray there, which one was it? Was it Universal?
It's Kinescope. It was. It's more of a Paramount.
Paramount. There we go.
Or RKO. I think it's kind of an RKO Paramount.
Because that new one, when they come back,
pick Paramount to emulate.
Because Paramount is rich in history, and it's kind of one of the studios that hasn't been altered. It started getting altered when it was bought by Viacom. When it was bought by the major communications companies. Yeah. But somebody like Warner's, for instance, went through a ton of changes. Disney, obviously, has gone through a ton of changes. So the majors, MGM got bought out by Sony, so very early on. So it's one of those things where Paramount is kind of the pure studio still to a certain degree. It hasn't been tampered with as much. They even have their own streaming service. They don't belong to anyone or stream their shit on other, so it's one of those things where it's kind of remained pure. That's the way I see it. This isn't confirmed in any way, shape, or form, but I think Paramount is kind of, when I visited the lot, man, I used to love the Warner's lot. Like, I'd been to the Warner's lot a few times. I'm like, oh, this is great. It's like the original, because it has a lot of history too. Yeah. But Paramount felt so authentic, man. Going to the lot and seeing what they had and seeing the stages where they shot fucking Citizen Kane and Howard Hughes' pictures and stuff like that. So it's like, it just still feels pure, man. It feels pure, that studio. And what it makes too, I think. So we just saw something with the Paramount logo, the Fablemans, or what was it that we were talking about? Like, it was this, right? Was it like the open? Yeah, you're right. It was this. It has the old 1920s Paramount logo to open the film. So I love Paramount for that reason. I think all of that's going to change soon because the majors are on their way out. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, it was those 4. What's considered kind of the 5 majors now, or before the 2020s.
Disney, Netflix.
Well, now that's what I'm saying. No, but before it was Warner's, Paramount, Disney, Sony.
Also, the main guys.
Yeah, they're kind of still around, the 5 majors. But now you're right. Now it's streaming services taking over, which sucks. Sort of, I guess.
Sort of.
That's one thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to this film. We're in a very, very uncertain time of cinema.
What do you see that?
Well, because especially during the pandemic, most people were not under the impression, they were certain that cinemas were going to close forever. A lot of people were very much.
I gotta admit, I was one of those, but now that they opened them up, I can see what you're saying. There's nothing like being there.
It's so weird right now, especially like I don't know if it's today or yesterday that the news broke about AMC theaters.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing ever, by the way. I'll be the first to comment on that.
I love AMC theaters. What happened?
Oh, they fucked up, son.
Well, the story is that now they want to introduce this new purchasing system for their tickets, where now when you buy a ticket, your price is dependent on where you are.
The better the seat, the higher the price.
Yeah.
Oh, what a bunch of!
And I forgot who came out.
Elijah Wood.
Elijah
Wood from Lord of the Rings came out and decided to say, "This is so elitist. You're basically punishing people for being poor."
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking dumb, man.
Yeah, because before it was just like, it didn't matter if you were high class or low class. you had $10, you could go to a theater. And,
I think theaters were
just-
smart. The theaters who were smart, Cinemark, Alamo, to have a subscription.
Even
Oh,
though
yeah.
Cinemark's is terrible, but
Yeah, Cinemark is horrible, but Alamo's the ones doing it right, man. You pay.
I'm just wondering how they're gonna mess up the movie. Like, are they gonna be checking people? Like,
No, it's just that let's say if you buy your tickets online, because I think a lot of places switched over that now you don't just buy a ticket and walk in the theater.
yeah,
you
nobody
have
has
to,
open seating
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, people
Now
still
it's-
cheat. People still like
well,
go.
for
yeah,
instance,
people will do it.
sure, but in kind of those chain theaters, or like Alamo doesn't do that. Alamo, you're sitting at a table and they'll come and say, "Can I check your ticket before I take your order?"
Oh, that
type of
is
thing,
true,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
like it is a thing.
It is a
And
thing.
It is a thing.
But it's just it's,
That's dumb though. Yeah.
Yeah, AMC's got their head up their ass, man. And
I
and
love
by the way,
AMC,
they're the
dude.
biggest theater chain in the States. I mean, they're the
And also-
Bigger
big,
than Regal?
yeah. AMC has taken over. AMC's the top dog.
And if AMC's listening, get rid of that Nicole Kidman.
that spot, I kind of like that spot. You don't like it?
Dude, it's 5 years already. Get
Yeah,
something
it's
new.
true. That's true.
No, but I
Bringing it back to this film. I'm sorry, you were
Oh
going to
no,
say
I
something.
was just gonna add on to that. Yeah, it seems like the mentality you would hear from people who aren't involved in filmmaking or don't appreciate cinema the way we do is they're like, well, I can just wait a couple of weeks and it'll be on streaming. Like, why am I
Right.
gonna pay to go to a theater
So
and see it? And that's so heartbreaking, especially for the people in our circle. You know?
I agree.
there was a thing that I watched recently that kind of talked about that whole thing that kind of knives out the Me One Glass Onion.
Mhm.
Is starting a chain reaction that is going to ruin the medium budget films.
Oh, that's
I mean,
interesting.
Because it didn't come out.
Because it didn't go to theater, went
Yeah.
straight to streaming.
No, I did go to theaters, but just not
Wait,
for a long
did?
time. Yeah,
But
I did a limited run.
It's starting a chain reaction with all these films that are made that aren't indie, that aren't big budgets, that fall in that 20 to 80, $90 million range that used to support cinema all the time.
Oh, that's a good point. The medium budget ones were the ones that kind of drew
Like,
people to the
yeah.
theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And I just like that a lot.
the big blockbusters, to be fair, fucked that up first.
Yeah.
They made the expectation so high. They broke so many records that it's like, well, do I really want to go see the man called Otto or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna care anymore,
Right, for
man.
studios, why am I going to invest $40 million in a film that I might
It's
get
so
20
hard.
back when I
Well, but to be fair, that's the only thing I like about streaming in terms of creatives. They're spending money, man, because they fucking have it. Somebody like Scorsese
Netflix,
was
yeah.
able to make The Irishman through Netflix when Paramount didn't want to.
Killers.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Apple stepped in and fucking gave him his budget when Paramount couldn't afford it anymore. So I can't dog the streaming services either.
Yeah.
They're investing in filmmakers and they're not giving a shit because they know they're going to get the return. It's guaranteed. That's what streaming is doing for people, you know. So
it's opening it up to I'd say people like indie filmmakers
Yeah.
to be able to branch into making large form what is it called, long form narrative,
right.
and be able to get, I guess, kind of their reach in that.
That's all to say that I think we're in a new renaissance of cinema, but more in distribution than we are in how it's made.
Yeah.
I think I've said something I've said on this podcast before. I tell friends about this all the time, filmmaking friends, that Coppola and Scorsese were interviewing each other in the 80s, and they started talking about cinema and how it's changing and what's evolving and stuff. They're talking about the closure of United Artists, which is this big studio that Charlie Chaplin started. And it closed its doors after a big flop, and then it reopened. It was this weird thing. And they were talking about it. He says, what people don't seem to understand about cinema or filmmaking is that it's only 100 years old, right? This medium is going to be growing. But the funky part is we need to start excelling and learning about this medium and making it better, because we already know the full capabilities of the photochemical system, right? Celluloid.
Right.
He says, what's funny about filmmaking is 97% of what we know about filmmaking, we learned in the silent era. It's true, man.
Yeah.
How to tell a story on camera. They already did it we're just doing it the same way to a certain degree. You know what I mean? So to push the medium forward, that's why films nowadays like Babylon, like Tar, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, like that, those are the ones fucking driving cinema forward, man. Avatar's fantastic and it is very much pushing the cinema forward. But why is something like Endgame getting all the love?
Yeah.
You know. So, by the way, just a play on words to a certain degree. Do you guys know what Babylon is? The people,
Yeah.
No, but
Back in the day.
Google the film, something else always comes up.
Well,
Well,
because it's Babylonia, right? Babylon.
Babylon,
So like
Back in the day.
was basically Greece and
Yeah.
Rome before Greece and Rome, and they got so basically it's biblical. What happened was kind of a Sodom and Gomorrah story. They got so fucked up in their own minds and debauchery and thinking they're better than God that God destroyed the fucking city of Babylon. This is why he named this film. Was like, okay, the 1920s, the transition into speakies, right, into talkies, is Babylon, and then Greece came about when we were doing the 1950s and 1960s, and then the 1970s, basically through present, is Rome. The high society of cinema right now, the furthest we've ever taken it.
Yeah.
But even fucking Rome fell. So
Yeah.
what's next? Like the Babylon was meant to kind of, I think, to like set it up like, okay, it had its time, it peaked,
Thanks for that.
it set it up for like Greece and Rome, but they fucked up and got defeated and got
Yeah.
destroyed. Greece got fucked up and got defeated and got destroyed.
Even like that critic kind of said, where she says, "Don't you realize how important it
hundreds.
is that you have some permanence in this,
Yeah.
but you're gonna be gone, and
Yeah.
then somebody,
And so am I.
Yeah, we're just gonna be like specks of dust later on, but the only thing that's keeping us here is the films that we've made."
You're basically going to remain immortal through cinema.
Yeah,
Your body's going to go and
I love
decay, and
that.
nobody's going to remember you. But no, people are going to remember you because of this, right? My gosh, man, this film just did a lot for me. I think the strongest suit for this film for me was the directing. When you guys talk about chaos under control, this you're right. I think Chazelle is one of the few that can do it masterfully. Nolan, Scorsese, Spielberg. You know what I mean? These are dudes who like can control chaos very aptly. And this film,
Who's the one that did 1914? The one where he's like
1912,
running.
1917. I'm
So we
sorry.
don't speak his name here.
Yeah,
oh,
Sam Mendes.
Oh, you guys don't like him?
Well, we didn't like his reaction to him not winning.
Yeah, and that film.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That film was overhyped.
There was a lot of
man.
chaos
It
on
was
that one.
gimmicky. It was.
I thought it was
The
good,
cuts
but
were not
I mean,
hitting well.
Really?
it was good, but it wasn't.
It was fine. It was fine.
It
but
was not better than Parasite at all.
Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
And his reaction to when they announced Parasite winning is just.
It's just. Oof.
I mean, right now he's nominated, I think, for City of Lights or something like.
Dude, he didn't get a lot of love either.
No, but they got cinematography love.
Yeah, that's the only thing they got.
Really? Because Deacons. was
Empire
on.
of Light. It's called
Empire of Light. There we go.
Sam Mendes. And he's a good director, man. He's full of shit.
So I have a question for you. You're saying what you think is the strongest suit of the film is directing.
Yeah.
Who would you replace the nominees?
In the directing nods, who's up this year?
It's good.
McDonough for Banshees.
I haven't seen Banshees. I've heard amazing things, and I like
Daniel Kwan
McDonald's.
and Daniel Shear for
Everything Everywhere. Yeah.
Spielberg,
Uh-huh.
Todd Field, Ruben Ostlund for Triangle of Sadness.
I haven't seen Triangle of
Yeah.
Sadness either.
By the way,
Probably
Triangle of
that-
Sadness and
I've heard amazing things.
I think both Triangle of Sadness and All Quiet on the Western Front are on Netflix right now.
They are. They are.
It's crazy how a couple of years ago we went from Roma, which couldn't get any love from the Oscars because it was on Netflix, to now I think everything's streaming. This
And
year.
it won,
That's a
by
big
the way,
deal.
Roma won Best Directing the
Yeah.
year it did. You know, I don't know. I haven't seen two of the five, so I haven't seen Banshees and I haven't seen Triangle of Sadness, but I've heard amazing things about both.
Would you replace one of the three that you have seen?
If I were forced to, yes, I would replace probably
Spielberg?
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
get him out of there.
no, but probably
Out of those three, is I think
Which are the three that you have seen?
yeah,
that I have seen. Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fablemans, and
hard.
what Tar. Tar's not nominated for Best Directing.
Yeah, it is.
It is? Oh my gosh! Yeah, no man, he did phenomenal. Yeah, probably Spielberg.
Out of the three that you
Out of those three. But granted, I haven't seen the other two, but if I could just add it, man, I think Chazelle deserves to be on this list. And by the way,
Not.
Chazelle has already won an Oscar for Best Directing for La La Land. He won Best Directing at fucking 30, man. This is
He won Best
insane.
Picture for like 2 minutes.
Right, and then took it away. But no, but Babylon, you're right. I mean, it just has so much. It just has so much. And I'll be fair. The reason I gave it a 9 is because I think it wasn't going to get the love it was supposed to get because of the horse shit, the urination, those types of things. Yeah, the vomit, just like Everything Everywhere at Once. I mean, the dick jokes and stuff like that. I'm shocked.
So
I was shocked that it got
do you
the
think-
love it got.
Do you think this was more obscene than the dick jokes?
Yes, absolutely.
This one was more obscene?
Yeah, you see, like,
Have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yeah.
So you remember the dick jokes and
The dildos.
Yeah.
this was more obscene?
the
Yeah.
elephant?
Well, why would something like
butt
10 years
opening
ago,
up?
like Wolf of Wall Street, get a lot of love when it was probably
Because
worse
Wolf
than
of
this?
Wall Street was showing debauchery, but it had a limit, man. Like, it was showing very pleasant things, though it was talking about an unpleasant subject.
Yeah.
This film was leaning into the skid, steering to the skid, saying, I'm not going to shy away from shit. By the way, the metaphor of the elephant shit, man, let's start there.
Yes.
In terms of story, in terms of directing,
Yes.
people are going to say this, and half of the people that went to see this film, who weren't that many, probably fucking walked out after that scene. And I get it. At an initial reaction, you legitimately see a elephant's asshole for half a second, and then you see
and
shit
then
coming out of it.
splatters on the lens.
No, I know that there's something to it. That's why.
No, but
The metaphor behind it is, again, so Fellini-esque. Fellini was known, and we're going to cover a lot of his films on this podcast down the line. Variety Lights, anything that's Fellini. You guys, we saw 8.5. We covered it on this podcast. Fellini was afraid of the circus as a child.
What?
And yeah.
Who isn't?
Right. But he wanted to embrace that fear, and he wanted to explore the circus and why it's so intriguing to people, and why it's so intriguing to him, because he is afraid of it after all, right? That's part of intrigue. The unknown, right? And then the more he explored it, the more he kind of fell in love with it. And when he became a storyteller, he decided to incorporate the circus style of the frenzy into his filmmaking. So Fellini's style in filmmaking is life's a circus. Let's see what happens. Think about the ending shot of 8.5.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Life's a circus. Let's just see what happens. Variety Lights is legitimately about circus acts. La Strada is legitimately about two circus lovers that kind of leave and are abusive to each other. So his films are very much in that style. Babylon is it's showing the circus of the film industry in its inception to a certain degree, right? I mean, in its inception to a big like transition and important section of cinematic history.
But they use it as a distraction.
No, well, okay, the elephant shit.
Yeah.
When somebody describes a shitty job, especially more back in the day, right? What were they describing? Shoveling elephant shit. That's the worst job you could think of, right? Metaphorically, this circus of the fucking industry is this dude bringing in an elephant for entertainment to his rich boss's house who works in the film industry. And you're covered in shit. This is the lowest of lows you could be. This is the worst job you could potentially work. Chazelle's taking it a step further. I'm not just shoveling the elephant shit. I'm being completely immersed in it. That's how bad this industry is. Or my position in this industry. Think about this for a second. He went from being the elephant shit guy to the head of a studio or a studio exec.
Right.
Huge leap, right? Huge difference, right? So the metaphor there is like, this was the industry. People paint it like, oh, I'm just shoveling elephant shit. I'm a PA on a set, or I'm getting coffee for somebody I don't really like that much. This dude was covered physically in elephant shit while working in the entertainment industry. How much more real can you get in that regard, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing about the girl pissing on the fat dude and then dying, overdosing, that was an event that actually happened. That kicked off the Hays Code. I forget
the what?
The Hays Code. What we just talked about, the Hays
The
Code.
girl overdosed.
Fatty Arbuckle. You Google Fatty Arbuckle and Google Virginia Rap. Fatty Arbuckle was basically accused for rape from this chick at a party. Similar thing, the whole urination thing, all that stuff. And because of the drama in the news that was happening, he was a very famous actor. That's when they were like, we can't have people doing this stuff. These actors, these people that people pay attention to. Fatty Arbuckle was a legend of the screen. So the Hays Code was implemented. So it's important to show, like, these were the fucking types of parties that people were going to. These were the types of parties, the type of debauchery that existed in that era, right? So
That's what I loved.
all of those scenes kind of were very important. The elephant shit, the urination, the whole thing. The drug use, naturally, I already talked about that. But, like,
People dying on set.
people dying on set. And
No,
just...
he ran into it. It's a disease.
Just to talk about that a little bit, about what these things were based on, or what events, or why they're important. Jack Conrad, right? Brad Pitt's character was based on John Gilbert, which was MGM's like star, MGM's go-to guy, highest paid actor, the whole nine, right? He had a falling out. John Gilbert died at 36 from a heart attack. By the way, this was that room. You OD'd, you had a heart attack, you died young. This was the fucking 30s, right? But Brad Pitt took it a step further, man. Like, what I appreciate about his performance and what he did to represent his character is that I don't think anybody could have played this role better than Brad Pitt, because Brad Pitt is, when you think of a movie star, you think of George Clooney, you think of Brad Pitt, right? You think of these guys. I mean, maybe Leo and all these guys, depending on who you are. But
they got the movie star look.
The movie star quality, the movie star, and he lived this, man. Like, he probably was at a point where he's like, I'm done, man. I had my time. I mean, he just won an Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But even in that role, he was playing some washed up stunt guy. You know what I mean? He's playing those guys. Like, there's nobody who could have done it better.
He's playing Leo now.
He's playing Leo in this one, right? To a certain degree. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and every actor goes through this. That monologue from St. John is just like, dude, there's no fucking reason for this chaos. It's just done. You're just washed out. That's
bro.
it. There's no, and it sucks, man. It's like,
do you think that every a great actor like Jack Nicholson, since he retired, you think he had that conversation with his publicist or his agent?
I think everybody probably goes through it at a period of time where it's kind of like, why aren't you getting me work? And then it's like, well.
But like Jack Nicholson, do you think it's just like, I don't know how you can retire.
I think it depends how content you are, right? Like, for instance, how content you are in like your personal life, and that's kind of diving into the weeds a little bit. But
that scene, oh my god!
But I'm positive that every actor goes to what they think is either a dry spell, or like, I'm not getting the roles I like anymore. I'm not happy with the things I'm performing in. Like, I think, for instance, somebody like, I love the fact that somebody like Brendan Fraser is coming back.
Fuck yeah.
Because I'm pretty positive he saw something like Babylon and was like, that was me fucking 10 years ago.
Well, according to him, he never left.
Well, he didn't leave, but he wasn't getting the roles he wanted. He's made it very public that he was desperate to work. Yeah. He wanted to work. People just weren't casting him.
Yeah.
Oh, that speech that's good too.
Pastor, did you feel that personally? Because I think you've come up to us before and you're like, I want to play this.
Yeah. Like, I'm so tired of playing this. I want to kind of dive into this or that. You know?
Yeah, no. It's just with me, it kind of happened where,
and it could have been
people kept casting me for like the same role.
Yeah,
and I had a couple comments where they were like, kind of like, oh no, well, I never seen him do that, and that's what kind of like annoyed me. Like, no, I could do that, trust me. But I'm like, so yeah, you kind of get stuck in that little.
People don't give you the potential to show your range.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why I always kept telling Carlos, like, it's not your films, it's just. I want to explore my range, you know.
And to be fair, I mean, when I met Castro as an actor, I casted you in this kind of like supporting role, and I didn't know you from Adam, man. Like, I knew your personality, and I thought you'd be good in a certain thing. And then when I saw you do that thing, I'm like, he'd be really good in this thing. And then from there, it was just like a shorthand. Like, no, I know Castro can pull this off, so I'm going to keep casting him because I don't trust anybody else right now.
Yeah.
And then when that came about, like, dude, I'm playing these love interests and I'm playing these drama roles, but I want to play the asshole a little bit. I want to play the villain a little bit. It was fair to be like, do your thing, man. To fucking go, and you're right.
And I'm glad you understood that, because I bet you a lot of actors go through that. Yeah. You know, they don't want to just get stuck with that.
Yeah.
And that's bringing it back to this film. That's what I loved about this film. It shows you truly, kind of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It just shows you truly what an actor goes through, like especially with that scene when telling them like you're watching.
Oh yeah.
I haven't gone through that, but what I have gone through is that I forget her name. Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
Her scene where the whole set's a disaster, it's chaos, you know, someone sneezing, someone, you know, everything's just wrong, they're dying, you know, it's heat. And then it's like, okay, the director's about to lose it.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's nervous. She's not even. She's sweating, but it's like I can't even get makeup on anymore.
Can we go into that arc a little bit? By the way, I want to talk about that more because
it's just I can't believe some director Damien caught that so real.
That vibe. Yeah. And by the way, not in the present era, which comes to show you filmmaking hasn't fucking changed. It's just like,
beautiful.
In today's day and age, the actors are going through the same shit. Directors are going through. Yes, our technology's gotten better. Fine, that's great. We're
But that's the beauty of it. I think that's why actors
We
do
don't
it
need to
because
stick the low in a box anymore.
right. Yeah.
you can see her pull it off
Yeah.
finally. And I think that's what actors do it. I think that's the highest high, but that's the pressure
Yeah.
that gives that reward. And I just think
I think
Damien
anybody who's
captured
been
it.
on like a film set has been on one of those like scenes where you go take after take after take, and from everybody from like the camera department, to audio to acting, you're all trying to like tweak it just.
It's a funky
enough.
thing.
Yeah, and then
Way.
as an actor, you're
and it
just,
tenses everybody up. Everybody's kind
No,
of
no,
like
yeah,
on
we've
edge,
all
yeah.
felt it for sure. But what's funky about this film? Let's talk about this for a little bit. It's a filmmaker's film.
exactly.
It's a filmmaker's film.
That's why
I mean,
I give it a
it's
9%.
hard to place. People who aren't in the industry, yeah, we want to expose them a little bit into our world, but I think it's a funky thing, man. It's a double-edged sword. I can't totally say, oh no, man, that's why it didn't do well in the box office. That's why people didn't see it because they're not interested. But nobody fucking cares about finance, and somehow Wolf of Wall Street fucking,
Ooh,
you know what I'm
okay,
saying?
let's explore that.
So just because it's a filmmaker's film, does it mean that people are less interested in how the sausage is made?
Yeah.
I don't know, because let me put it to you this way. Sandra, recently I sent her something. I sent her a TikTok or something of Titanic, where they were going back and forth about the whole door theory, right? Because James Cameron, for the 25th anniversary,
I saw that.
released is doing a National Geographic show, or Nat Geo or Discovery, I think it's Discovery,
Oh yeah.
where
I
he's
read up.
legitimately exploring the theory. Could they have fit in the door? So I
Yeah.
sent her a TikTok, but the opening shot of the TikTok or whatever it was them in the water tank with Cameron. Leo and Kate Winslet in the water tank with Cameron. And then she opens it in front of me. She opens it and she's like, "Don't send me these things." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I didn't know they shot in a water tank or like in a
What did you
soundstage."
expect?
And I'm like, I was like, "What do you expect? In the fucking the ocean?" She said, "Well, I mean, I want to at least present it that way. I wanted it to be presented."
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that's my point too.
Yeah,
Is like
yeah.
a lot of people are like that.
Don't
They don't
know.
want to know how the sausage
Yeah.
gets made.
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah.
ruin it for them, right? So I just think it's interesting to explore this theory because filmmaker films don't necessarily get a lot of love. Even The Fablemans, I think, went straight to streaming after a good chunk because
Actually, I heard more about the Fedlemans in this one.
well, Spielberg,
Also-
because it was Spielberg's kind of like
We didn't
Yeah,
story.
a little bit
touch
more.
too much on it, but the advertising for this film, I remember when it was being advertised, I was like,
Yes.
okay, so it's a 1920s kind of like Great
Gatsby. You were talking about
That's
that.
kinda-
spectacular, and I had no interest. No offense to them, but I thought Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt just seemed like big movie stars that they got for these roles, and it's just kind of like,
Well-
put them in like debauchery and let
Yeah.
them have fun with it.
Well, because
And-
they just got off Tarantino's thing.
yeah,
Okay.
like to me, they didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of differentiating. from just
I'm with
another
you.
blockbuster
Ask
pick,
Austin when we were so excited that the trailer was going to drop, and I saw it, and Austin I think was a little more fired up than I was. He was like, "Oh, dude, this looks pretty fucking great," and I was like, "I don't know how to feel about this, man.
Yeah.
I do not know how to feel about this. I don't like it. I don't like this trailer. I
Also,
don't know how to feel about
To me,
this."
it kind of got blended in with Amsterdam.
Oh, right.
Oh, I still got to see that one.
Yeah,
No, Kristen
it's
Bale.
1920s kind of thing. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
to
it
me,
was a funky spot, man. Do you remember that, Austin? Do you remember how you felt? I remember we both were like, you were a little more like, well,
I was a little more, but I was definitely skeptical.
yeah, we were
Yeah.
like, this is weird,
Because it had so much
man.
of a Gatsby.
But then, I mean,
Yeah.
after finishing it, like, it's so hard to like advertise.
I
It's
walked
like, how
out
do
so
you-
you can't put
Yeah.
your thumb on it. I walked out so happy. I
Yeah.
walked out so happy. Like Chazelle's back. And by the way, First Man is a great picture.
No, I know what you're saying. It's totally different, but I'm a
Comparison
sucker
is-
for space films.
I want to talk about this before we kind of get into like our other thoughts about
Yeah,
this.
neat.
I want to talk about the arc. Because specifically
Margot Robbie.
Nellie Leroy and
Hello, boy.
Manny. Diego, I think his last name's Calva, right? Diego Calva.
I think so.
Fucking phenomenal actor, man. Phenomenal
Oh, yeah.
actor. Chazelle legitimately had to sort through thousands. He wanted an unknown.
Yeah, Diego Calva.
Calva. And he had to sort through thousands of fucking headshots. And then he kind of just stumbled on his headshot. It's one of those things. And he said, the reason why he kind of captivated me was because his eyes were super genuine. And
Yeah,
just
I'll
his
give him
whole
that.
feel made me feel good. After it was during the pandemic when he was casting this, so during he was just zooming with Diego. Like after a few Zoom calls, I was convinced this was Manny. And what's more is they shot a version of this on Chazelle's iPhone in his backyard, where it was Diego, Chazelle, and Chazelle's wife, who plays the director in this film, the blonde. I forget her name. I'll get her name right, or we should get her name. But
was she the one there with Robbie?
Yeah.
Oh,
the blonde.
Okay. I love
that's Chazelle's wife.
Okay.
And she came out in
She had
La
one
La
of the
Land
best
too,
scenes,
by the
yeah.
way. I think she had a role in First Man also, but she's good, man. She's so good in this.
Yes,
She's terrific playing the director in this, right? And by the way, she's based on one of the I forget the name, the director, one of the first female directors in Hollywood.
Olivia Hamilton.
Olivia Hamilton's her name.
Olivia.
The actress name. This director, who she's based on, is responsible for discovering and implementing the boom pole.
Oh, really?
Hey.
The boom mic. That was her doing. So anyways, the arc. I want to talk about Manny and Nelly a little bit because it's so fascinating, man. You guys know I love bookends. You guys know I love these. When we talked about In the Mood for Love, we talked about the fact that these characters never even touched.
True.
In a film with such debauchery, such like sex and just literally every other scene or whatever, right? For them to never have barely shared a kiss.
Yeah, I was gonna say that barely at the end.
Never had sex, never had any kind of sexual connection in that regard. It was pure love. It was him. Literally every decision that Manny made was because he loved her.
I think he told her he loved her within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, no, not
was,
to her, but
I think I'm
at her.
Yeah,
you know,
Said it in Spanish.
I think I'm in love with you. Yeah, but and she kind of just right. But they started in the. I think it's important to note they started in the industry together. She got her call when he got his. His first day on set was her first day on set. Huge thing. She becomes this big movie star. He becomes an important studio exec, right? But ultimately, every decision, it's super lopsided if you think about it, just because of Nelly's selfish personality. But Diego did everything for her, man. He jeopardized his career. He jeopardized his life, his safety, everything, man, just because he loved her. And I think that arc is so powerful, man. It's so powerful because I think Nelly represented what they talked about, right? Nelly represented this life, this brand new life that he could explore. And when we get to the final sequence where he's crying at Singing in the Rain, not only is the girl that he loves represented as this quote unquote the girl who loses at the end, this bitch who didn't speak correctly, who didn't care about her craft, Exactly. He's seeing this visual representation of the girl he once loved. But more importantly, his love for cinema and making films was what kind of... Nelly was a huge piece of that. And that's why he cries. That's why he's taken back to those days. So I just think that arc is super special, man. Obviously, Brad Pitt, Conrad's arc is phenomenal. His arc is great.
Man, he shoots himself, bro.
Yeah. But
but that's so Hollywood.
To watch the film.
But I think the arcs. I'm sorry, the trumpeter. Sidney Pollard.
I think that's his name.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's based on Palmer. He's based on.
What was up with him?
What about him?
He was the jazz player.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the jazz.
How did he come about to be one of the main people? Because yeah, I know how they changed it. I think you should be,
it's a huge representation of Hollywood in that era. But remember, the 1920s is the Roaring 20s. Jazz is at its peak. Jazz is the talk of the town. And this specific character was when they were casting black people. They were casting musicians.
Right.
It was the turn of the jazz senior for people to start listening to this music and to these musicians. And then these musicians got famous. There was segregation still in the States.
It just kind of seemed out of place, Damien.
No, I think
it's the actors and then...
But I guess he became an actor too.
Right.
And what's more is the political climate of Hollywood of that era.
I can see that, okay.
That they weren't going to... By the way, just to talk about a couple of examples... Gone with the Wind of that era. if you don't know anything about and I'm spacing on her name right now. I should know this. She played the servant in Gone with the Wind, the first black person to get nominated for an Academy Award and win for that role. She wasn't allowed in the banquet because there was segregation.
Haiti McDaniel.
Damn.
Haiti McDaniel was not allowed. She fucking went and got her trophy
No
anyway.
way.
She didn't give a fuck, knowing that she could have been shot, knowing that she could have been. So, like, that was the political climate. So, to represent somebody like Sydney, who's like, they were famous, by the way. They got all the same treatment to a certain degree in Hollywood, in the bubble of famous people. They got treated the same, man.
Right.
But when it came time to the real, like, yo, you're gonna have to play the game, as you kept saying.
Oh, that's a tough scene.
So his character's super important, and his character's the only one that gets back to his roots.
Ooh,
His character survives Hollywood by walking away from it. He didn't get consumed. He got back to a little flop house to play jazz, in its innocence. I used to play this.
And I like how he did his thing, and then it's like, all right, I did my thing, and I'm out.
That's it.
Yeah.
So he's super crucial. I'm
That's
on
true.
your
No,
boat.
that's
Like,
true. I just never.
that kind of felt out of place because we were so focused. But it felt that way because he was the only one just trying to do what he loved, like genuinely getting mad at people for not practicing more than 9 hours a day and shit. Like, he was just there to fucking play.
No, yeah, true. I was just seeing like the whole actors, the whole studio thing, and then. Yeah, I guess, when he mentions, I think the camera's pointing at the wrong direction. I get that, but it just kind of seemed out of place.
Yeah.
But now that I hear the reason, it makes more sense.
Seeing some of that kind of the negative side of things, where when they talked about it being a more integrated film and a more progressive film and all that kind of stuff, having him in, they're not treating him like a person. They're treating him like a novelty. Like, oh, so what do you guys do?
Oh, that conversation with the rich people, man.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And they even ask him straight up, like, what do you think is the political climate right now for blackies and for black people in cinema?
And he was like, that's my cue.
That's my cue to leave. Like, I'm right here. You're asking me this. It's fucking dumb, man. Yeah. We could talk about these character arcs forever and these actors and these performances. Let's talk about cinematography. I think it's some of the best cinematography I've seen in the last 5 years, man.
I think it's because Damien really likes crane shots.
Yeah,
you really
I really like crane shots.
And you're saying about whip pads?
Whip pads, I love it.
I think that's what I told you. I think Damien has a signature
He's
style.
definitely
so he does. Okay, see, that's something that I gotta
Linus, man. Linus, from something like La La Land to First Man, Linus has range, man.
Oh yeah.
Linus Sandgren's a damn good DP, and he won for La La Land, by the way.
Yeah.
So fuck, man. I thought for him to get snubbed too in this is.
Yeah, no, I feel like when you're watching the DP work here, you're looking at somebody who's a master of movement, angles, lighting, everything.
And by the way, following the lead of Chazelle as one should, but
going from like these large scale sets with a bunch of people and being able to manage all that, and then being able to like find these different angles and positions. I mean, like a simple scene, but it's so well crafted. It's like at the end of the movie when what's his name? The actor's name.
Brad Pitt?
Sure. No. At the very end, when he goes into the theater after like
Manny.
Jim Kelly.
Manny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when Manny goes into the theater, where they show him, and then once he starts crying, then it kind of comes away.
Down to see what people are experiencing.
Each and every person, and then it incorporates this idea, and then it goes back to him, and it's that kind of break to show that he's able to see beyond his own
It's
pain.
for a few reasons. The first
own pain.
The first reason is we're gonna take the shot from somebody that has legitimately a personal connection to this film or what's being depicted on the screen to people just coming to enjoy a movie.
Yeah.
They have no fucking idea what's going on right above them. And the diversity, it's just people enjoying cinema. The act of people enjoying cinema in a room. They showed a lot of diversity of people, Chinese people, American people, black people. Everybody was depicted in this and just enjoying cinema in their own way. And then to come back to somebody who had a personal connection, personal loss, personal sadness and grief about this. And then the smirk at the end. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than my experience. Cinema is going to evolve into this fucking amazing thing. That smile is so telling. It reminds me of like the smile at the end of Birdman. You know, when she inherits the madness, like
Oh.
it's him. Like,
Good reference.
I can't believe I walked away from this shit. Do I go back to filmmaking? Do I watch cinema again? Have I been missing out? The love for cinema, or at least him making films or being involved in this circus, is just addicting, man. It's him smiling
and
at
look being, like a single shot, you know, and
phenomenal.
I feel like Chazelle just really knows how to design beats in a sequence and then work with his DP to make
The party
it,
stuff too. The opening sequence.
Absolutely.
Oh, those are
Tons of
crazy.
wonders, great wonders, phenomenal wonders.
Like
do that?
even like that sequence with Margot Robbie where you see her the camera's really close and intimate on her like dancing and taking a cigarette from somebody to then her
The choreography.
being
That was
immersed
beautiful.
in everything.
And that was a wonder.
yeah.
Uninterrupted. And Chazelle, by the way, if you guys don't know, Emma Stone was originally supposed to be casted in that role.
Oh my goodness.
And for scheduling issues because of COVID, it got pushed back. I don't know, man. Maybe, but you're right. Margot Robbie, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but Chazelle said, I needed somebody as fearless as Margot. Somebody who was going to like just...
Yeah.
And then I guess talking about Singing in the Rain, I guess I don't like her voice. I think
Emma?
I think that was kind of like I don't
Like,
know. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I think it was a good casting for that one.
But I think the opening sequence too, man, just the cinematography alone. I want to talk about that overblown shot, the opening shot. The reason why it's important. And by
Which one?
the opening shot of when the truck's pulling in,
Oh yeah.
right? And it's just like the sand is overblown and like the
elephant part.
so it's like the reason why that's important, by the way, in terms of cinematography, I think it's just something to note. But everybody here has been to California, right? I mean, everybody's here has been to Hollywood and has experienced that side of things a little bit. That's what Hollywood looked like in that time. There was a few palm trees here, but it was all farmland. That's where studios were first built on, was fucking farmland.
Yeah, way back in the day.
You know what I mean? Hollywood, the name itself, the name of the city is the Hollywood sign was a real estate development called Hollywood Land.
No way.
The land part of it got like fell off, and people weren't taking care of it. And then when people started identifying Hollywood with cinema, they started protecting the sign and making it this thing. But it was fucking farmland, man, as far as the eye could see. And the dirt roads, at that time there was just dirt roads. And when he drives from the set of just some fucking mountain and
To get the camera.
it's a couple palm trees here, a dirt road, and then he gets to Cahuenga. Cahuenga is one of the main streets in Hollywood. It's
That's cool.
that's great.
I'll also add into the cinematography that when we first watched this in theaters and we were able to see the projection, there's so many times you'll see little imperfections, like little scratches on the film or little like blips here and there. And those little things authenticate it so much in the era.
It was shot on film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This was shot on 35 millimeter.
But I feel like you see a lot of film now that really tries to clean itself up, at least when they're editing it.
Yeah.
So it just looks like this perfect little thing.
That's
but
true.
It kept a lot of the imperfections. It kept a lot of the flaring of the lens. But something about that really puts you in the environment, and you could tell that the cinematography here was really meant to like attach you there.
Let me ask
Especially
you-
the splatters on
Yeah.
from the elephant ship, and then also Margot Robbie bleeding out. And
All
all that
right,
being sprayed
the
on.
snake stuff.
They really wanted you to be there. You're,
Yeah,
I want-
and it
you're there
succeeded.
with it.
I want to ask you something.
Yeah,
I was rewatching parts of it because I didn't finish it, of The Aviator, and I was just testing some stuff in my like little home cinema thing, and it reminded me of a fact that I was like, oh shit, I forgot he did this when I was watching the cinematography. Every different era of The Aviator, the cinematography reflects what type of film they were able to shoot on in that era,
Yeah.
what type of color temperatures they were able to capture, and color tints and whatever. So, do you think something like that would have been more effective for something like that? I mean, it didn't tackle a ton of errors. It tackled really like 3, but
yeah, but they did do it. They did. Remember, we talked after when we saw it at the theater that the film, the grain structure and the temperature from the 1950s film and the 1920s film looks completely
That's
different.
true.
And
So-
if you look at him like walking through like kind of the Paramount lot or in front of the Paramount lot, and before he goes into the theater, Manny. You can see that the film and the texture and everything looks super different. But again, it throws you into that time. It's showing this big shift. But I mean, compared to like The Aviator, that I think really
Right.
went through all these distinct periods. This one's just going through two main.
Right,
ones, yeah.
sure.
And then
I
plus,
mean-
it doesn't want to throw you into the black and white
Right.
kind of era.
Well, you're right. I think that this could have been maybe more credit to Damien than in terms of camera movement and in terms of direction, in terms of stuff like that. But the cinematography is phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
Can I ask him the same question I asked you?
Yeah.
Do you think he got snubbed for cinematography?
For cinematography, for sure.
What would you replace?
Um,
We got All Quiet on the Western Front,
still
Bardo, Elvis, Empire of Light, and Tar.
Right, Empire Light.
I was gonna say Elvis.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd replace Elvis with this for cinematography. Fuck yeah.
What do you guys have against Elvis
The film?
or Austin? The
No,
guy.
the film.
No. The performance
Austin
is
was
phenomenal.
great.
Yeah, Austin was great.
But the directing was subpar.
So you think
Cinematography was okay.
Tom Hanks deserves to have that
No.
Razzies?
Oh yeah, maybe.
For real?
Oh no, he was good. He was amazing.
good.
I didn't think he was amazing.
Forget Agent.
No, I don't know, man. The Razzies are another whole nother episode
Yeah.
too. They're
Yeah.
ridiculous. But anyways, I think we get into final ratings, gentlemen. I think. Man,
I
they're-
want to ask us that question too.
oh, like snubs?
Yeah. Would you say anybody got snubbed, and if they did, who should they replace?
Like
Man,
best actor,
Actor,
best
actress.
I thought Margot Robbie was fantastic.
Yeah, Robbie probably.
I remember.
I know that you're saying Brad Pitt, nobody could replace him since he fits that model of like he's
Is it?
for
I
real.
don't know. Is he supporting in this?
I think,
Brad Pitt?
Yeah,
I
he
think
is.
Pitt falls under supporting for that.
Just
Oh.
because
It boils down to
Robbie
screen time.
and,
It boils down to screen time, but Diego's definitely the lead.
Yeah,
obviously.
Diego's the lead.
But I want to say one other thing from one of the scenes, and this is just from the acting stuff. Let me just vent about this because
Yeah.
I love it. I was recently in a shoot where I guess the director didn't have enough battery, and I kind of saw it in the scene where with Robbie, she's already put into the scene. Remember? So like, I'm gonna need you to dance and all this stuff. And the director did not really give her a direction, right? Just a simple line, like a simple like, get up, do this, and do that, right?
Dance, go on the bar table,
Yep,
kick
yep,
it.
yep, yep.
That's it.
That is so real because I've seen it in person, and then in this last shoot, I saw where my acting was at. I'm like, okay, like sometimes directors ask like that. Like, I was in this little short film where the guy was just like, all right, get in the restroom, you can have it again, look at the mirror, right? He's setting up, and the guy's like, all right, cool, all right, so I'm gonna need you to get intense now, and the guy's like,
Ooh.
what do you mean? Like
Yeah.
legit like that, and the guy was such a good actor that he came up with something. Like he came up with like whatever came out, but he
You're
was just,
venting as like that shouldn't happen or that.
no, that's the realness of Hollywood. Like man, sometimes you get those opportunities and you better be ready.
Sometimes there'll be a director that'll work with you and
Absolutely.
get you.
Exactly.
It's a directing style.
And then
thing,
there's
too, man.
some directors that are like, I mean,
Make me laugh.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
And by the way, you've to be fair, you've gotten out there enough to experience both. I mean,
Exactly.
Somebody with me will give you a binder before pre and be like, listen, this
Exactly.
is what I think the character is, but I want you to also carve yourself out.
Exactly.
What do you think this character is? Somebody will be like, all right, man, we're shooting tomorrow at this time. If I can,
exactly, and that's what I love about this film. It just shows these little different perspectives of what an actor really goes through, and that one where the lines and everything just chaos, and they have to do it in this next scene, and then. With that one, it's just so real. It's a real
fair.
thing for
That's a
people
good-
that
that's
are
a
like
good-
out there
it's
trying
good
to be
perspective for sure.
actors. Like sometimes you'll get this guy, and sometimes you'll get the guy that is just like make me laugh.
Make them laugh. Make them laugh.
Yeah.
By the way,
Make
let's
'em
just make very good note in terms of performance and in terms of. And I've said this before. When a great director, can get another great director in front of the camera, you know he fucking respects him.
Yeah.
Spike Jones
Oh
in this
my
fucking movie is so
Please.
terrific, man. It's like banging.
And it's not even like a little cameo, dude. He's
Oh,
a
he's
good
great.
character.
God, I'm
man.
so sorry. You gave
I'm so sorry you gave me a beautiful light. I squandered it. I
I should
fucking
have fought
love
for
it.
20
man.
cameras.
We talked about her on this podcast, by the way. He's an Academy Award winner, Spike Jones. This motherfucker doesn't even be doing shit, but yet he comes out in Wolf of Wall Street. He comes out in this film. Like, no, dude. Spike Jones' cameo is
Yeah,
so
dude, I totally
fucking
forgot
great,
about
man.
him.
It's
Who else?
so-
Before we forget, it was
Spike
him.
Jones, Eric
Flea.
Roberts does a great job. Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers does a great job.
Damn, it was an all-star
man.
cast for sure.
Everybody.
So the main one was Robbie, and then the supporting was Brad.
Yeah, and then Diego's the other lead.
I'll say this because Ash is a big fan of Margot Robbie. After watching this film, I wanted to give her so much more credit as far as like I can see her range.
Yeah.
I can see everything that she can do, and I
Very
definitely
true.
think
It's one of
in
those
the
things,
next-
dude.
yeah.
Like she was tossed not from obscurity, but she comes from basically Australian soap operas, and then
Those guys.
legitimately got tossed into Wolf of Wall Street almost out of nowhere. And by the way, she was up for Emma's role in Birdman. So it's kind of full
So
circle
weird,
for
yeah.
her to replace her in this type of thing.
Wow.
Like she's been around. Don't get me wrong. She's come to the States and done auditions and played the Hollywood game. But Wolf of Wall Street naturally is what catapulted her into stardom. And when you work with a great director for the first time, let me put you an example. The first wife of Jordan Belfort, Tracy, she's the mother in How I Met Your Mother. She's a great actress,
okay.
and she was great in that film.
That's
Tell
the
me
mother?
where you've seen her after that.
Ooh.
She did Palm Springs, which was good,
Oh,
I
with
guess.
Adam
But
Sandberg?
you don't see her, man. That
Yeah.
like I'm not saying she's a bad actress, but I'm saying she hasn't been in anything.
Yeah.
Margot, on the other hand, has shown range, and I
Yeah.
think she played the Hollywood game in the beginning. She did Wolf, did
You
great in
have
that,
to,
and
wow.
then did the DC films and played Harley
Yeah.
Quinn and played that game. And now she's back here. Now she's doing Barbie next, which is going to be
With
with Greta.
Ken, yeah.
But God
That's
knows
gonna be
how-
interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. But
What-
I agree,
what-
man. Margot is just fucking.
What do you think
in this?
was the leap for this one for Robbie?
For Robbie,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning, you see every character go through their ultimate high and then their lowest lows.
That's a good point.
And I think there's so much room in between that you're seeing from each of these actors and each of their performances that you feel every moment of that. You feel every moment of
That's
like
it.
when they're at their highs, you feel at the high with them. When she's getting lifted up and she's in that crowd, and really, it's kind of sad, but
Yeah.
her highs are really at the top at the beginning of the film, and then
Yeah.
afterwards they start.
I'll
to
toss
return.
this in there. I'll toss this in there.
Fuck yeah.
I think it goes deeper. I think we see them here. For instance, think about that opening, that scene where she's in her bed, fucking drooling, and like it's
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
shitty
Oh,
apartment
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a bad situation.
It
And
looks
she
like
comes,
a crack house.
yeah, and she comes from a bad home too. She makes that very clear. And then she becomes the most famous star in the world based on fucking the It Girl. I forget the name. Anyways,
Wild Child.
well, no. She's
Um,
based on an actress
Oh.
who's nicknamed the It Girl, and then
It's not.
it goes from there to legitimately lower to where we started with her.
Yeah.
Broke, fucking about to get killed,
$80,000
$80,000,
broke.
which is the equivalent to like almost $2 million today.
Yeah.
So like, we see her here, we see her here, we see her down here, and it's almost like, man, we're probably okay in that middle position where you started out in. Did you really need all this shit?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, did you really need to go through all this shit? So I think it's super
It's-
interesting to see those highs and lows for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it just the whole every moment with her is so interesting. I mean, like even that scene where she just cries on command, and there's that authenticity to that, and then also I guess kind of telling to her
Clarabelle.
character.
Clarabelle. That's what she's based on. Clarabelle, the It Girl of the 20s and 30s.
Now, I don't believe that
You don't believe what?
she could cry in the man. There's only one person, and I truly
Actor or her character?
believe her.
Because Margot is like, she made a whole publicity campaign about her being able to cry on command.
And could did she do it on
Yeah,
command?
she did it in a few interviews, actually.
Really?
Yeah, legitimately. Google, YouTube it. Like, legitimately, she did.
I never believe when actors say that.
No.
Only when like Christian Bale said that he could sweat on demand, cry on demand. Like, okay, I believe that guy for
Christian
sure.
Bale's
Sweat
a
on
good-
command.
It's not because he'll fight you.
Exactly.
Yeah, he'll execute cinematographers, man. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, they said that in the
Interviewed on this podcast.
Interview.
in American
Oh,
Psycho.
On
Our other podcast.
What you the one you told me somebody? I read it somewhere where in the American Psycho when he's looking at the ID, he had to sweat on demand because he's
Shit.
not the ID, the card that you give people, and they're all showing it off.
Business card.
The business cards.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was sweating on demand like action. He was sweating on demand. Well, that's the rumor, right?
That's cool.
I
think that's
don't know. I
physically
just felt like in the way
Oh.
that they carry dialogue and the way that they carry performance. I mean, you see her where she's dancing and she's mixed into all this spectacle, but then you also see her when she's just more subtle and I don't know.
Yeah, we did see a lot of range for her in this one for sure.
And all the actors,
Everybody, man.
everybody
Diego,
shows you.
by the way, just stuff, we're tossing around the idea. I told Austin, like, hey, man, this dude's kind of an unknown. He's been doing a lot of stuff. I love Diego Calva. We should, if we're exploring this big project right now, let's
And why
let's
he's still-
explore it, right? Why he's still obtainable.
Exactly.
And then one of the producers today at our meeting was like, We're not gonna get him, dude.
What?
He's because this movie fucked
Dude.
this movie fucked it up for us. Like this movie threw him up there. All right, guys. I think we need to get into our final ratings.
Final ratings. I'm gonna say mine didn't change. 9.5.
9.5.
I think it was a great film. I feel like maybe it's not that things could have gone better for the film. It's just it's hard to throw out something in the list. But I think
9.5.
an amazing performance all the way around. Cinematography, direction, storyline.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll give it 9.7. It was a 9.6. I'll give it 9.7. I love the whole chaos. I love the whole realistic of being there in the freaking studio.
Getting shit on.
Yeah.
The different types, right? Like the open studio with silent films, and you can just have
the
30
history of it
sets
that you
time,
learn just from
the
this
sound
movie.
stage and what it looked like and what it happened. Yeah, dude, it's great.
Yeah, I'll give it that. I would have given it a 9.8, but it was 3 hours long.
Wow.
3 hours and 8 minutes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Austin,
I'm saying a 9.3.
9.3.
Not to bash, saying anything bad, just
That's where you're at.
that's where I'm at with it.
I think I went up to like a 9.2, and for the same reason that Nightcrawler got me was just it was able to create this conversation. It allowed us to really
So I liked it more than you guys.
No, I love this film is
I really
just
liked
like
it.
in The Mood for Love or where other films were there's too much to talk about, man. This can't be unpacked in an hour and a half, whatever we're up to right now.
Like in The Mood for Love, that's not my. I loved it.
Yeah.
Even if you talk about just the story and execution of this film, there's still a whole other conversation to have about the history. And I think that's what I love that you could bring into that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, there's just so much about the history of Hollywood that this film really depicted. It's phenomenal. I can't wait for the Blu-ray version of this to drop because the bonus features are going to be insane, I'm sure. There's so much that Chazelle's kind of kept himself. He's been doing a podcast publicity run where he's talking a lot about this. But fuck, dude, I've been reading history of Hollywood books a little bit recently, and just my gosh, man, the shit that people don't know and the shit that people overlooked or forgotten about in terms of history of Hollywood is insane. So something like this gives you a little peek of what the 1920s and 30s really was.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty cool.
And the 50s, I mean, to a certain degree, right? When Singing in the Rain came out. But I think I went up a little bit just because of that, man, to create this conversation. Even if you don't love cinema or you're not a huge enthusiast, you could watch this and still be like, whoa, what world did I just walk into and out of? And it's almost like you walk out feeling like Diego's character a little bit like, oh man, I survived. I survived this world. I survived this journey. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's a terrific picture. It's a terrific picture, and I think it's a picture that's going to stand the test of time. I think people are going to revisit this in 10 years and be like, what the fuck were we thinking? This was such a great picture. I don't know what the streaming circumstances of it are. I know it's probably going to go to Paramount Plus, but right now it's on digital, so you can rent it, buy it on Amazon Prime, wherever your VOD is. But it's out. Go check it out on digital.
It's a must
I'm
watch.
expecting this Blu-ray to be fucking phenomenal too.
Final question. Who thought Manny was going to get shot at the end of the film when he goes back?
I didn't. You know what? I expected Nellie to get shot as soon as she got out of the car.
Or hear a bang.
In the shadows.
There we go.
I expected that, but we didn't get
I
it.
will say that with Mandy's character, because we've seen mafia films where that's what happens. You think everything's fine, and then somebody gets shot. Yeah, it's like
You think Joe Pesci's walking in to get made, and then he gets fucking whacked. Fuck. No, but you know what, dude? To be fair, I love that he flipped it on us in that route, and that Nellie's exit is so beautiful, man. Despite the fact that we find out that she does get killed. Or maybe not. Maybe she ODs. We don't know what happens to Nellie, man. But her exit was fucking beautiful. To her to kind of ascend into the darkness.
What was her last line?
Life's grand, ain't it?
Yeah.
Terrific, man.
Awesome.
Wow.
Collecto
Media. Watch Babylon. Tell us what you think about Babylon, because half of my friends that love cinema love it. Half of them were like, dude, what the fuck was that?
No. Yeah,
so,
please watch this film.
Please watch this film.
Great film.
Yeah.
Great film.
Keep supporting us. Share, comment on this podcast. Let us know what you want us to talk about next. We're not some obscure. Somebody asked me recently, like, hey, so I started getting into your podcast, but every film you guys talk about, I have no idea this film even exists. And I was like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
We want to cover cinema that people have either overlooked or isn't talked about enough. So I'm
still cover major.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. With people not knowing those films, that's the point. We're kind of preaching the gospel of these films, but
Exactly.
we're happy to cover any film that you want us to talk about.
Absolutely.
That's the
So
beauty.
that's kind of the point. Come check out the live podcast. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So thank you guys for tuning into the WatchTower podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Love you guys.
Good night, everyone.
Who the fuck sneezed?